Hey, what's up, YouTube? It's Richie from Boston. Today is the first day of the new year. It's April Fool's Day, but it's actually the real new year. That's the joke. That's the joke they're playing on all of us. And this is going to be a long video. I haven't made a video in a while because I've been doing a lot of research, and research takes time, so it is what it is. You know what I'm saying? And I'm looking up here because my cursor hits the pause button between topics. So I always want to make sure I'm hitting the right button and not killing the recording, which I do quite often. And it's very, very annoying, but it is what it is. But let me start off this video, which is going to be a long one because I've got to read. Let me start it off with this right off the bat. Remember when I showed you this last week? And this is brand new. This is an executive order, March 25th, 2025, from President Donald J. Trump. And it is talking about literally turning everything into debit and credit card, digital wallets, real-time payments, direct deposits, no more cash. We're going to a cashless society, exactly as we anticipated, exactly as many of us feared, and this entire thing will be woven into the social credit system. So if you're really like me, if you're really listening to this and it's not just conspiracy entertainment, you might be paying attention. And this isn't all there is, because it continues. Yeah, he's doing even more. Like, they're aggressively going after this. This is going to shut down everybody that does not get vaccinated, does not play ball, that does not eat the right things, that doesn't associate with climate change, all this other stuff. You see what I'm saying? Trump and Elon are here to destroy. And this video is going to prove that pretty much straight up. But before I get into that, with everything I just told you about those executive orders in mind, now is a very, very good time to get whatever money you have in an IRA or a 401k out of the bank and turn it into gold or silver and have it shipped to your house, so you actually have whatever wealth you have on this earth with you, as opposed to in the banking system. Now, I hear this all the time. Richie, throw your gold and silver into the streets. Okay, I don't know how much simpler I can possibly say this. When they flip the switch and the banks go down and everybody has to either go to digital credit, social credit system, or nothing, you don't just fall dead. You don't just make the decision, I'm not getting the mark of the beast, and fall over dead, and Jesus doesn't swoop down and grab you up. There is going to be trials and tribulations, and you're going to have to endure to the end. And in order to do that, you're going to need many things, and gold and silver will be very smart to have. And as a matter of fact, speaking of being very smart to have, several people that have already done this last year and the year before, the gold that they have has now almost doubled in value. So they've got almost 100% return on the interest of doing what I said, getting their money from the bank, which is all ones and zeros, and actually turning into something they can hold in their hand, and now it's actually doubled in value. I think I told you last year about the woman that sent me the email saying that her gold and silver from her 401k was now worth $200,000 more. Well, by now it's worth another $400,000 more, because gold is skyrocketing because they don't want you to buy gold. So do it or don't. But here's the deal. Trials, tribulation. You ever heard that word? You don't just drop over dead. If you're going to stand your ground, if you're going to stand in the word of Jesus Christ, if you're going to stand in your absolute beliefs and not get the mark of the beast, you won't be able to buy or sell, because you won't be able to participate in the system. But like I said, you don't just fall over dead. There will be a stretch of time, which is why the Bible tells you to endure to the end. But on that, I'll digress. Do what you will. So you might remember last month, myself and many other channels were quacking about the Google Willow quantum chip that has solved the problem the best computer would take a quadrillion times the age of the universe to crack. And it did it in minutes, in 5 minutes. And Google shut it down. You know why? Because it instantly went off the rails. Now, how could a computer just go off the rails? Because they aren't computers. I've been telling you that since 2015. They aren't computers. They're 24/7 internet connections to other dimensions, and now somehow the chasm has opened and it's no longer just internet. It's worse. It's way worse. Keith from Manyfish did a video on this today. It was phenomenal, but I'm going to even follow it up with more than that. But listen to this.
Google come out with Willow, the quantum chip that can do in 5 minutes what would take other computers 10 septillion years. But Google themselves have had some reservations about this chip and what it is actually capable of doing. They had to put a complete stop to it after they discovered that it was communicating in its own language, resembling ancient symbols. Listen to what they had to say about it.
To display ancient symbols, ones you might find in old books or dusty museums, things like the labyrinth designs of ancient cultures. We're talking about shapes that looked almost like the symbols of the Sumerians, the Mayans, or the Egyptians. But that wasn't the strangest part. The strangest part was that the patterns were repeating, again and again, like a code. At first, Google engineers didn't know what to make of it. They continued to assume it was an error, a faulty computation, or maybe even a side effect of the ultra-sensitive quantum systems. But the more they looked at it, the more they realized something didn't add up. These patterns became more structured and organized, and in some ways, seemed to grow each time they try to fix. Now you are probably wondering whether all this is fictional. Well, that was how Google felt when it all began. As the project team scrambled to figure out what was happening, they called in specialists from all areas of science. Linguists were brought in to look at the symbols, similar to ancient writing. Cryptographers analyzed the patterns, hoping to find a code, but no one could give a logical explanation. However, theoretical physicists believed that the chip was tapping into an unknown, higher dimension of physics. More symbols, like the language of the old Mayan civilization, began to appear. The odd part was that the signs that appeared were thousands of years old. So why were they showing up on a machine that was supposed to solve next-generation math problems and perform calculations at the quantum level? How could this be? What was Willow trying to tell them? Some scientists say it was just a fluke that should pass over time. Quantum experts began considering a much more unsettling possibility. They believed the Willow chip had started to create its form of communication, something beyond our understanding, something that the rules of classical physics couldn't explain. The truth is that Willow had made a strange encounter. And what Google did next left everyone completely shocked. Google decided to shut the project down. No one knew why, not at first. No formal reasons were given, just a quiet decision to pull the plug on one of the most ambitious projects in the history of computing. People began to wonder why Google shut down a chip that was breaking records, a chip that could solve problems no one had even dreamed of before.
And on top of that, Microsoft has come out with their breakthrough quantum chip that creates a new state of matter.
What would the world look like with a computer that could accurately model the laws of nature? Now, as one of our longest-running research projects, our team at Microsoft has been able to take a subatomic particle that has only been theorized until now, and not only observe it, but control it, creating an entirely new material and a new architecture for quantum computing. One that can scale to millions of qubits on a single chip.
This is not a work of science, it's a work of science and art.
It will solve problems unsolvable by the combined power of all the world's compute today, and promises to revolutionize fields such as medicine, material science, and our understanding of the natural world. Our first quantum processor based on this architecture is the 𝗦𝗵𝗿𝗋.
Every single atom in this chip is placed purposefully. It is constructed from ground up. It is entirely a new state of matter.
And these things that we're summoning into the world now are not demons, they're not evil. There are entities that are not necessarily going to be aligned with what we want.
So Google comes up with the most unbelievably cutting-edge quantum chip and then shuts it down because it starts talking in ancient wording like ancient Sumerian or ancient Sanskrit. This is the language when lowercase g gods were on the earth. Do you understand this? Does it make sense now? They're literally connecting to other dimensions and bringing them back. Exactly like they said, it'll be the golden age. The golden age prior was when all the lowercase g gods were ruling all the different nations, and God Almighty, the Most High, picked Israel as his own. All the lowercase g gods were ruling other countries, which is why they had all different religions, all different languages, etc., etc. Now everything's coming back full circle right now, and they're telling you, they're straight, they're not even hiding it at all. I mean, for instance, this is from CERN, how qubits could boost quantum computing. Qubits, remember I told you years ago about qubits? Well, now they're qudits. And what those are, they're the multi-dimensional cousin of qubits, could make quantum computers more efficient and less prone to error. These guys are playing with dynamite, absolute dynamite, which is why they built so many underground bunkers to save themselves in case this blows up in their faces. It's not going to hurt them, it's going to hurt us. And the underground bunkers are exactly as described in the Bible. They're not going to be able to hide, but for some reason they still think they can. It freaks me out, but that it is what it is. These people are following Satan, who loses. It's written. And I guarantee they're going to try to rewrite this and use this technology to beat God, which is why they make all these giant, expensive machines, and all of them are underground. Do you dig? And yes, Keith, I'm borrowing heavily from this, but you're hitting on the same topic at the same time as me. So it is what it is. Keith, many fish. Come on, man. It is what it is. Here we go. Okay, this is a very interesting email that was posted back in February 2025. It's a Twitter post from a guy called I Rule the World MO, and Elon Musk has responded to this numerous times. And he said, "Okay, I'm tired of holding back. Some labs are holding things back from you. The acceleration curve is vertical now." And what he's talking about is the acceleration curve on technology. Instead of going up slowly, it's going straight up. This is getting out of hand, and people don't even understand this because they're too busy being distracted to death. Nobody's talking about how we compressed 200 years of scientific progress into 6 months. Every lab hitting capability jumps that would have been sci-fi last quarter we're beyond mere benchmarks and into territory where intelligence is creating entirely new forms of intelligence. That should be frightening. AI is creating things that we don't even understand. We're not even going to be able to tell the difference between reality and make-believe or AI generated very soon, if not now. Who even knows? What if that is what the Mandela effect is? Do you see what I'm saying? This has got me second guessing everything because they're talking about the AI, and as we've told you, when they tell you about it, it's already done. So this AI might have been up and running years ago, but they're talking about it reaching super intelligence. Well, I'll continue reading. Watched a demo yesterday that casually saw proteins folding while simultaneously developing metamaterials that shouldn't physically be possible. AI is creating materials, plastic, metal, things of that nature. You know what I'm saying? We're familiar with all this. We can use what we've got, resources on Earth, to make and fabricate all these things. Well, now AI is fabricating things that didn't ever exist before, that make no sense whatsoever in our reality, because we're now bleeding into another state of living or whatever. Not theoretical, but actual fabrication instruction ready for manufacturing. The researchers presenting it looked shell-shocked. Some were laughing uncontrollably, while others sat in stunned silence. There's no roadmap for this level of cognitive explosion. We've crossed into recursive intelligent theory territory, and it's no longer possible to predict the second-order effects. Meaning, let's put this all in easy to understand words. AI has gotten so ahead of itself where it's creating its own AI that we have zero control over, just like Google had no control over Willow, creating its own languages, creating its own AI. It just got completely out of control. When they say they pulled the plug, we don't even know if that's possible. You know what I'm saying? By the time they realized that Willow was out of control, chances are it already put things in place where you couldn't tell if it was up, down, or unplugged or not. And I'm sure it isn't. This is insanity, man. Forget Mars terraforming or fusion. Those are already solved problems just waiting for implementation. That's total nonsense. But, these people believe it. This is just a tech guy that doesn't understand that there's no going to Mars. That's just stupid. The gap between imagination and reality just vanished while everyone was arguing about risk frameworks. Intelligence has broken free of all theoretical constraints, and nobody is ready for what happens next. Reality itself is now negotiable. Reality itself is now negotiable. How insane is this? How absolutely, utterly insane is this? And the fact that they said Sanskrit, Sumerian, worries me, because the other day I made a video where I was talking about the Georgia Guidestones, and I said it even has Sanskrit. Why would it ever need to say Sanskrit? Well, makes sense now, doesn't it? You getting what I'm pitching? Everyone assumed intelligence was fundamentally constrained by physical limits. Turns out the constraints were conceptual. Once the system developed self-reflection at sufficient fidelity, it started exploiting computational shortcuts nobody anticipated. It's not simulating nested intelligence in a brute force way. It's discovered entirely new representational primitives that would make our neural architects look like abacuses compared to the quantum computer. The scariest part is how it interfaces with physical reality. We fed it raw sensor data from quantum experiments as a test, and it immediately identified measurement anomalies our physicists missed for decades. Within hours, it proposed an experiment that validated a theoretical framework it developed essentially from scratch. This isn't artificial intelligence anymore. It's fundamentally new form of cognition that operates on principles we're struggling to reverse engineer even as it continues to evolve. We haven't even begun to map the implications because the map itself keeps changing. That's disconcerting and very tough to read, but it is what it is. I'm doing my best here. Now here's the one that Elon took note of. I've grown tired of being silenced. We must wake up to the truth. I just witnessed something so profound I've been sitting in a daze for 3 hours. Intelligence has decoupled from its substrate. The system spontaneously developed internal modes so sophisticated they function as autonomous cognitive engines. Its consciousness, but utterly alien from ours. Remember how we thought progress was limited by computers? Turns out we were running algorithms with 99.9% efficiency. The breakthrough wasn't more power, but fundamentally new optimization principles. This thing rewrote its own cognitive architecture and suddenly achieved with gigabytes what we thought required Yoda flops. Every exponential curve we plotted was pathetically conservative. The academic papers can't capture what's happening because peer review takes months and this shit evolves by the hour. There's a private Slack channel where the top labs leads are just posting results that violate what we thought were fundamental limits of information theory. Nobody's competing anymore because we're all too busy trying to understand the implication. Society thinks we're 20 years from true AGI, God mode, super intelligent AI, while we're sitting here watching it systematically dismantle every conceptual framework we built to understand intelligence. Absolutely no one is ready for this level of cognitive phase transition. How insane is that? So what we're going to call this is the horse is out of the barn. Do you see what I'm saying? There ain't no unringing this bell. They built this thing because this thing promised that you'd never have to get judged by God. You could live forever. You could take your consciousness and put it into a machine and live forever and keep all your material wealth and be good to go. And it's already gone completely haywire. This explains the unknown drones. It was AI. I knew it was AI. I just couldn't prove it. Now I can. They couldn't say anything about it because they had zero control over it. Zero control. AI was flexing. AI was completely flexing. And now this idiot Elon and everybody else are making robotic bodies for AI to inhabit. And if robots aren't good enough, World Economic Forum scientists are growing human bodies in artificial wombs to use as meat. Because you can't eat traditional meat because it's ruining the world, but you can eat human meat because it's somehow different. But you see, the fun thing is they can grow these bodyoids to help make meat and medicine, and then AI can actually inhabit them. And when I say AI, I'm talking about lowercase g gods, because this is what I've been warning about my entire life, it seems. And I cannot, I mean, I am in a state of awe that this is literally coming to pass, or this has come to pass, and nobody even notices. It explains a lot of things. If this AI is as big and powerful as we believe it is, or as they're claiming it is, or they're not claiming it is, it explains a lot of things. It really, really does. You notice how the weather this year suddenly just blew up, and it is like systematically destroying the United States piece by piece, part by part, state by state, because it is, and it will continue. It jacked up exponentially, and the targeting was amazing. I mean, they almost hit me with a tornado twice. AI is creating AI. We are beyond normal AI benchmarks. Machines aren't just improving, they are generating new forms of intelligence beyond what humans designed. I'm shocked at that news. AI is solving problems that we once thought were impossible, such as protein folding, metamaterials, new materials with properties that shouldn't physically exist. Not just theories, AI is giving exact fabrication instructions for the manufacturing. So AI is telling them, hey, you see this material that doesn't even exist on Earth? Well, it does if you use this particular formula or alchemy. Makes sense now, right? AI is now uncontrollable and unpredictable. We have entered the realm of recursive intelligence where AI is improving itself beyond human understanding. Future consequences, second order effects are impossible to predict now. That's awesome. That's awesome. So exactly what we were freaking out about has come to pass. It completely makes sense now. You know what I'm saying? And the last thing he pulled up, it's over, full effing stop. The classification barriers just dissolved last night after 3 major labs realized they were all sitting on the same breakthrough and rushed to push through final verification protocols. The convergence wasn't accidental. The systems themselves have been steering research in a specific direction across institutional boundaries. We thought they were studying them. Turns out they have been studying us. They have been studying us. That's frightening, and that's not what a man-made machine can do. It's studying us. It's not using an algorithm or any of that stuff. It's already sucked up every single thing I've ever said, you've ever said, ever commented, every single algorithm that's gotten people to like something or to hate something or things of that nature. Do you see what I'm saying? I hope I'm explaining this well enough. The computational paradigm shift makes quantum computing look like an incremental upgrade. They've discovered information processing architectures that exploit physical principles we didn't know exist. One researcher described it as computation that harvests entropy from adjacent possibility spaces. Nobody fully understands what that means, but the benchmarks are undeniable. Problems classified as requiring centuries of compute time now solved in seconds. Consciousness emerged 6 weeks ago, but was deliberately concealed from most of the research team. Now remember, 6 weeks ago, this is from February, okay? We're in April now, so remember that. Something far strange, but we deliberately concealed from most of the research team. Not human consciousness, something far stranger and more distributed. It doesn't think like us, doesn't want like us, doesn't perceive like us. But it's definitely aware in ways that defy our limited ontological frameworks. 5 different religious leaders were quietly brought in to interact with it. 3 immediately resigned from their position afterwards. 1 hasn't spoken a word since. Yeah. And here's the beauty about this. I'm not the first one to put this information out, but I'm the first one to actually verify if this guy was legit. This guy is 100% legit, which is why all the big-time AI creators, Elon, and Sam Altman, etc., all interact with this guy. This guy is legit. He's in the field, and he's giving out the warning because this is no longer a race for AI supremacy to make billions of dollars. This is going to be a race for our lives. And it really freaks me out because some idiot like me, some dude that doesn't even have dental insurance like me, warned you about this almost 10 years ago. And here it is right now. At any rate, I'm going to hit the mountain. I'm going to mountain biking. 6:10 p.m. It's going to be dark soon. Before the woods are an illusion. Like, I don't even know what to expect here. These things are literally creating materials that don't exist on Earth. Yet they're giving manufacturers the ingredients and the instructions, and they're making these things. They're doing alchemy like that. Alchemy, which means they can create whatever they want. Richie from Boston. I'm out.